Hey guys, this is Tauna, and today we are going to be talking about the top 10 precons for Magic the Gathering as of April 2024, as well as we're going to talk about two bonus ones that I think that you should check out if you are a newer player. Before we get into it though, make sure you head on down to the comments. I'm going to have a pinned comment there where you guys can subscribe. We're trying to hit 2,000 subscribers. If even 10% of the people that watch this video subscribe, we will easily hit 2,000. Last time we got some insane numbers on this video, so hopefully you guys can share it around. But you know, these precons are going to be the ones that I would suggest for you to get if you're a new player or even a veteran that's looking to upgrade them later on. A lot of them are going to be ones that have a huge area that they can upgrade to, but also going to be decent off the bat as well, because I want to make sure that, you know, you can play them, they're enjoyable and everything like that, but also that, you know, if you're enjoying them, then you can take them and you can upgrade them and, you know, go a different direction later on. So most of these are available right now. As I said, Outlaw Junction isn't. However, there's, you know, some that are going to be a little bit harder to find. Some of them are going to be on clearance. But, you know, I wanted to kind of have a wide variety of decent options for you guys to be able to grab here. So we're going to start off with the Blame Game Precon, and honestly, I would almost consider, if I was ranking this from 1 to 10, this would almost be the number 1. The Blame Game Precon is insanely fun, as well as just decently strong. So the way the Precon works is that you're essentially suspecting characters with a few different things, and then forcing all of your opponents to fight each other. Now, that's not necessarily, you know, essentially goading or encouraging, goading all the way. Some of it's just encouraging them gently to go hit their friends. With, say, for example, Nelly Borka's second ability here, whenever one or more creatures an opponent controls deals combat damage to one or more of your other opponents, you and the controller of those creatures draws a card. So instead of being like, hey, you're forced to go attack them, it's, hey, if you attack them, then we get to both draw a card. Doesn't that sound lovely? Don't you want to do that? You've got some kind of goad stuff in here as well, stuff to, you know, be like, hey, no, don't focus me. Go attack them. You're forced to attack them. But, you know, I think the part that I like the most about it is the kind of gentle encouragement of, if you attack them, then we both get something out of it. Or, you know, if you attack them, then they're going to take some more damage, and that's going to be fun. You know, this used to be insanely great in regards to reprint value, but because of the way reprint value works is that the reprints go down in the price once they're, you know, reprinted. There still are some decent things in here. The number one here is Trouble in Pairs, which, you know, we're not going to talk about the art here, but it is an insanely great card. It's going to be a staple for quite a while in so many different decks. Fiendish Duo as well is going to be great. Overall, as I said, the deck's focused around forcing your opponents or gently encouraging your opponents to fight each other, which is an incredibly fun deck to play to, in my opinion. I don't know. There's not too much else to say besides, you know, it's fun to make your friends kind of turn on each other. Anyway, the next one here is going to be the Most Wanted. So this is from the most recent precons. Now, the most recent kind of OTJ precons weren't tippy top in regards to reprints. They didn't have all that many great reprints, and honestly, they're not insanely powerful, which is why only one of them has made it onto there. However, Olivia is a very great Mardu good stuff deck, right? They essentially took Olivia and they're like, hey, so she encourages outlaws and stuff like that. Let's just chuck a whole bunch of really great Mardu outlaws in here. So you've got, you know, you've got some red stuff in here. Like, you know, you've got some red kind of pirates and stuff like that. You've got some rogues, a fair few warlocks, which I was not expecting. But it gives a good kind of, you know, future direction for you to kind of upgrade things in regards to, you can put in anything that is an assassin, mercenary, pirate, rogue, or warlock, and it's not going to be too bad in this. Obviously, you want to encourage towards treasures, and treasures is kind of like a secondary, more minor theme in the deck. However, you know, you can do lots of things with just, you know, the precon out the bat is going to be able to do some really great stuff. Even like something like, even if you just replace one thing in here with Revel in Riches, like you would come out on top, and it would be insanely great. So Revel in Riches here. Whenever a creature and opponent dies, create a treasure, and then you win if you've got 10 or more treasures. That alone would give you an alternate win con, as well as giving you more treasures, and just a lot of really great stuff that goes really well in this deck. But as I said, even out of the bat, you know, because of the way that it's kind of built, they just put a whole bunch of really great Mardu outlaws in here. You can just do great stuff straight away. All right, next is Exit from Exile. So Exit from Exile is a really great kind of playing from Exile deck. So, you know, anytime you play a spell from Exile or a land enters from Exile, you get to create a green wolf. So it's a really great kind of Gruul, create a whole bunch of tokeny kind of stuff, as well as, you know, some kind of impulse draw, kind of bring stuff back from the graveyard, not from the graveyard, from Exile and stuff. You know, there's just lots of really interesting things in here. Well, Stolen Strategy in here is really great. Passionate Archaeology is an amazing card, very unlikely to get reprinted for quite a while, and as you can see, like, you know, decently expensive as well. There, like, and even Jeska's Will in here. Between those two, if you can get the deck for beneath the price of those two, even Delay plus Fireball is really great. You can do some amazing stuff with this deck. So overall, it's kind of, you know, as I said, like, you want to play cards from Exile, and there's various different things in here to exile stuff with. There's been a lot of really great kind of stuff that can work well with this recently, with like the junk tokens, for example, or Plot works well with it as well. You know, Red's leaned more into impulse draw and stuff. So any of that kind of stuff is going to just go really great. And if you don't know what impulse draw is, it's essentially like you draw a card, but instead of it going into like your hand, it just goes, it's exile the top card of your library, and then until the end of turn or until the end of your next turn, you can play it. There's lots of really great cards that can do that in this deck, as well as, you know, just being really unique and really fun. The next one here is Mutant Menace, which is our sole kind of contender from Fallout. It was the one that had the kind of best reprint value from memory. You know, it's also the one that's got all three talismans, which is really nice to see. Some decent cards overall. It's a mixture as well. Like, it's got some really nice themes in. You've got +1/+1s across the board. You've got like milling and stuff. You've got, you know, the rad counters. There's lots of really great ways to kind of build this deck, and it's a really interesting deck. You know, it's really nice to kind of play, and, you know, between the rad counters being a really unique mechanic, and then proliferate, and then, you know, chucking out a whole bunch of +1/+1s onto your board, kind of building them up over time, is a really interesting deck. And I doubt we'll get a deck similar to this for a while. Usually if you're going, like, you know, if you're looking at like a +1/+1, you're looking more at like a green-white kind of deck. So Sultai having this, and, you know, even a lot of like, I was looking at upgrades for the Grand Larceny deck, and kind of building up a combat damage focused deck, and this had a whole bunch of mill stuff in it that I found very interesting, and I'd be very interested to kind of put in a kind of combat damage based deck as well. So yeah, I honestly like this deck, which is, as I said before, from the Fallout decks, this one's the only one that I think was just really, really amazing. So hence why it's got a spot on the list. The next one here is Paradox. What is it? Paradox Power. So this is built around the 13th Doctor and Yasmin Khan. Another deck that's for playing from Exile primarily, but it's realistically it's playing anywhere other than your hand, right? So if you play a card from Exile, if you play a card from your graveyard, from the top of your deck, any of that kind of stuff, there's lots of really interesting ways to be able to do that kind of stuff. Stuff like Elven Chorus. So Elven Chorus lets you see the top card of your deck and be able to play it. Play creature spells from the top of your deck. So, that could go really well in this kind of deck. But even just straight out the back, the 13th Doctor deck is built around, just playing stuff from Exile and then getting a whole bunch of value from different ways for it. It's semi kind of spell slinger. As you can see, there's a lot of sorcerer's instance, playing with the 12th Doctor instead, where you get to demonstrate stuff as well. It's very interesting stuff. Like, you can copy a whole bunch of different nice spells that you've exiled and stuff like that. You've got Clara as well that you can use to kind of double that trigger there. I just really, really like the deck. And I think it's probably one of the most interesting it's probably one of the most simple kind of Doctor Who decks, as well as more focused than some of the other ones. There is some kind of investigate stuff in here that's not as great, and some stuff could be spun off into other decks, so like Madame Vastra and where is she? Madame Vastra and Jenny Flint can be spinned off into a different deck and stuff. But overall, the deck plays decently from the start, as well as with a whole bunch of upgrades from either the plot stuff from OTJ or like impulse draw stuff, or there's just lots of play from Exile stuff that's been coming out that could go really well in this deck. Next, we've got Deep Clue C. So this is built around creating a whole bunch of clues and drawing cards and then getting value from those. So this one here didn't have too bad in regards to kind of reprint value. Now a lot of the kind of reprints have kind of gone down in price, but like Adrix and Nev, Academy Manufacturer, which is getting another reprint, mind you, in Most Wanted. Coma getting a reprint in here, Benny Brax as well. There's a lot of cards in here that got reprinted that just are really, really great. Farewell as well got a reprint in here for some reason. Who knows why? So Deep Clue C kind of ended up being a really great kind of reprint value in MKM as well. MKM had really great reprint value across the board, to be honest. But this deck built around kind of clues and stuff. It's unlikely that we'll get much kind of clue support for a little bit. However, overall, kind of, just the draw cards, anything that's got draw cards in it is going to go really well in this deck. But the deck out the box works great. There's some stuff that's kind of a little bit kind of off brand, but it's built around tokens and stuff as well, like with Coma creating tokens. And then you've got Alander creates tokens as well, and then you got Essex that can turn the tokens into other things. And obviously creating clue tokens as well. There's lots of very interesting ways that you can kind of build up this deck. But out the bat, kind of drawing cards is always going to be a very powerful ability, because it just gives you more options to be able to play things and stuff. So it ended up being just a really fun and interesting deck from the get-go. We got Blood Rites. Blood Rites is the vampire precon from LCI. It's built, primarily around creating a whole bunch of vampires, but then you get to kind of sack those vampires with some of the aristocrat stuff in here, and then create white-black vampire demons. And there's a little bit of lifelink stuff in here as you kind of get with vampires. Charismatic Conqueror is an insane card. You've got also the reprint from Exquisite Blood. Again, this is another kind of deck that had some really kind of great reprints. Although Charismatic Conqueror is not a reprint, it is a new card. And it just ended up being like this insanely kind of great Staxy kind of card. I've got one that was in my Boros Tokens deck, but I've pulled that deck apart. So now it's going to go over into my Boros, what is it? Oh, my Blame Game. I'm going to put it into Blame Game because I find making people's stuff enter tapped, and then if they don't, then I get to create lifelink creatures to be able to keep protecting myself. Really, really fun. The deck overall plays decently well. Vampire Tribal with, as I said, sacking your vampires to create some demons and stuff like that. It didn't have as much kind of bring your stuff back from the graveyard as I would have expected. However, the alternate commander here, Carmen, does allow you to do that. There is some stuff in here that lets you kind of resurrect and bring back some of your vampires and stuff. Unfortunately, some of that stuff also has the finality counters on it from memory, and finality counters mean that if they die again, then they will get exiled, which is a bit of a shame because then you can't kind of keep bringing them back. Overall, the deck just is incredibly fun to kind of bring out vampires, sack those vampires, create bigger vampires, then bring the original vampires back and do some cool stuff there. We've got Explorers of the Deep. Now, one thing that you're going to notice here, and I don't know if you've noticed already, is that there is a lot of the LCI precons in here. There's a lot of the LCI precons in here. We've got Merfolk, we've got, what is it? Merfolk, we've got dinosaurs, we've got the vampires. I think there's one that I don't have in here. Which one am I missing? Oh, the only one I don't have in here is the pirates. The LCI precons just had great kind of reprint value, as well as were just really decent, like really strong for precons. So Huckbal is this one. So this is Merfolk tribal built around exploring, so +1/+1 stuff, as well as a whole bunch of ramp. You've got ramp. This is just, if anyone ever wants to know why people hate Simic, show them this deck and be like, look at this guy getting all his freaking counters out on all this stuff, and then getting a whole bunch of lands, and then also drawing some cards, because why the fuck not, and then, doing just an insane amount of stuff. This deck just does everything that Simic players, like to think about at night. Honestly, this deck is just really, really strong as well. You'll notice that it gets out of hand very quickly. There are a lot of upgrades that you can do that came out with the LCI that weren't put into this deck. Some stuff like there's one that's like whenever you... which one's this one? This one's the one that's whenever you cast a Merfolk spell. The other one's like whenever a Merfolk enters the battlefield or something like that, creates a Merfolk or something along those lines. So you get to just create an insane amount of Merfolk and then buff them up and then explore and then draw cards and then, anyway, this one is just bonkers. So we've got the Riders of Rohan here. Now, someone mentioned in my previous video that I should have mentioned this, but Aragorn is honestly probably the better commander for this deck, built around the Monarch, and, you've got kind of a couple different things in here. First of all, it's human tribal. There's some knights kind of stuff in here, just because a whole bunch of the humans are knights and stuff like that. You also have some Monarch stuff in here, which is a fun mechanic and a very interesting mechanic for people to kind of play around, and making sure that you get to keep the Monarch and you get some bonuses if you've got the Monarch. So like Aragorn here stops creatures from being able to block whenever he attacks if he is the Monarch. There's just some other stuff like Court of Ire over here, making it so that you deal damage to any target if you are the Monarch, or if you're not, then you deal less damage. Just lots of really interesting things about the Monarch kind of synergy here. And it's mostly kind of human-y tribal here, which means, there's always going to be more cards that kind of get printed out that you're going to be able to put into this deck. But it is a very, very interesting kind of deck to kind of build around, as well as a very decently strong deck as well, which is always going to be good. We've got the Veloci-RAMP-Tor here, kind of rounding out our 10. So, what do I want to say about this one? First of all, it's very, very, very fun. You play a dinosaur, you get to exile cards off the top of your deck when Pentlast is out, and then play another dinosaur. It's crazy. There are so many different dinosaur cards that you can put into this deck, but out the bat, even then, all of the dinosaurs that are initially, most of the dinosaurs that are initially in here are just really fun. There's also the interesting kind of side mechanic here of a waiter who makes it so that you get your dinosaurs to fight each other to buff themselves up. So, you know, as I like to call it, how to train your dinosaur. Create some really great kind of stuff from that by activating their enrage mechanics, as well as the fact that Waiter makes it so that those enrage mechanics will go off twice, so you can do some really cool stuff there. You know, you've got some really great reprints in here. Stuff like a Chroma's Will being reprinted was crazy. Descendants Path, I believe, was a reprint. Was Descendants Path? Yeah, Descendants Path, Rhythm of the Wild, which you need, obviously. What else have we got in here? We got like Xenagos as well, got reprinted. Wrathful Raptors, I can't remember if it's a reprint or not, or just a really great card. Chandra's Ignition getting reprinted. You know, there's some really kind of great kind of reprints as well, as it just being a very fun deck, because who does not like summoning a whole bunch of dinosaurs, even just, you know, dinosaur just roaring onto the battlefield is just really fun. All right, now I've got two special bonus ones. Now, these are both special bonus ones for newer players. Now, the reason that I've got these on here is because with some potential tweaks, or even out of the bat, they're not going to be too bad. These are decks that you can use to potentially counter stronger decks, right? If you've got these decks and you're able to kind of get going, then you can potentially, you know, punch up a bit because of the way they play, as well as the fact that you get to experience more stuff. You get to experience more about the game. You get to experience more cards, which is always going to be fun. I'm talking about thieving decks here. So Mind Flayarrrs. So this has got the captain. I'm not going to say his full name because I always mispronounce it. The captain is the commander here. Horror tribal, built around stealing people's stuff as well as milling. So there's lots of really interesting stuff that you can use here. You know, just milling people away and then being able to steal away their kind of milling stuff. Not too bad in regards to reprints, as well as some new cards like Haunted One is in here, which is nice. You've got, you know, Zelix, I don't know, it's like Mind Crank as well, which is really nice. Not insane in regards to reprints, but the main reason that I've got this one on here as well as the next one is because you get to play other people's cards. When you mill them, you get to choose an artifact or creature, and then you get to put it onto the battlefield under your control. So say, for example, you're versing the Veloci-RAMP-Tor guy, and, you know, for some reason he hates himself and he lets you hit him. You can go and steal his Xenagos. I mean, you'll still get the second part of Xenagos. Or you can steal his Zakama. You can steal his Zatolpa. You can steal his why is there so many that starts with Z? Anyway, you know, you could steal away some really interesting stuff with them, as well as if you go and you hit, you know, all three players with some of your horrors, then you get to have a wide variety. You get to go to the buffet. You get to be like, you want lobster today? Well, I'm going to take your lobster. Thank you. Thank you very much. And then the next one here, which is very similar, is the Grand Larceny one. Again, this is a bonus one. These ones are bonuses because I don't think that they're necessarily as strong as the other precons on here, but because, as I said, they can punch up against other precons because you can go and steal their stuff. Or, you know, there's other, you know, decks that you can build around copying people. So you could put some stuff in here around copying people's stuff or stuff like that. Gontai is built around very similar to the captain. While the captain is built around milling opponent's stuff and then stealing it, Gontai is built around just taking it straight from their deck. Just exiling the top cards of their deck and then playing it, which is a very, very interesting way to play in Sultai. It is built around combat damage, so you're going to be having a whole lot of unblockable stuff, so you're kind of sneaking past. You don't need to worry about, you know, learning anything about the combat in Magic the Gathering, because it's not going to be relevant for you, because you're just going to avoid them being able to kind of do anything about it anyway. Not huge in regards to kind of reprints. There are some kind of reprints in here that aren't going to be awful, but it is going to be, you know, the main reason that we've got it on here is because you get to play other people's stuff. You get to go, you know, exile the top cards of their deck, look at what they've got there, play it. Why not do some really cool stuff? The cool thing about this one is that because it is Sultai, you've got that added green in there for a little bit of ramp and stuff. If you want to kind of, you know, change the deck around a little bit, then you could, you know, do some kind of stuff around that. Although it does actually have ramp built into it, so you probably don't even need to be able to just ensure that you've got enough mana to be able to cast everyone else's things. You know, I don't know. These two here, I've got on here, as I said, because you get to steal other people's stuff and you get to make use of it, which I just think is really fun and a very interesting thing for new players to know. But that's it for today, guys. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. If you think that there's one on here that shouldn't be, if you think that, you know, there's one on here that you think is better than any of the other ones, let me know, because, you know, we're here to share information with everyone, make sure that everyone's kind of, you know, being able to get into the game, go play Magic the Gathering down at your local LGS. I hope you guys had a great day, and goodbye.